Self-inflicted. Gunshot to the face? How? Boy, I swear. What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? I am Seven Blackman, and your host of the Blackman Show, a place where we can dissect the news with a little bit of 7 cents. So smash that like button like it's your first night of your honeymoon. Hey, sugar. And I've got lofty goals, but they are goals nonetheless. I'm looking to get to 2,500 subs. I know I should be happy with the 500 I got, but I am dreaming bigger.
Think big, bitch.
So if you dig what we got going on over here, hit that subscribe button and tell your peeps about your boy. But without further ado, let us continue. So with all the political talk recently about the president stepping down from re-election, his VP and America's favorite drunken auntie who never comes to visit.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see.
Kamala Word Salad Harris being the presumptive nominee who hasn't been endorsed by Obama. And the fact that all of that seems to have dwarfed the whole I got shot story, it can be easy for some stories to fall through the cracks. One that recently hit the waves that needs to circle the block again is the situation of the recent unaliving that took place in Springfield, Illinois, involving Sonya Massey, a 36-year-old black woman diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and the events that took place after her call to police to investigate if someone was at a place of residence. Since the event took place, the officer responsible, Sean Grayson, has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. So you may be thinking, well, what happened? What would make an officer decide to unalive a woman in her own home? When Sonya Massey called 911, or 911, whatever, due to the suspicious activity near her home, I'm sure she was probably thinking the same thing as she quivered with her hands up, apologizing to an officer seemingly drunk on power, waiting for anything to use as a reason to pounce. Okay, so here's what I mean, right? It's 2 days after the 4th of July in the evening of the 6th when Sonya calls the cops to investigate suspected noises around the outside of her home. When deputies arrived, it seemed like a normal encounter. They checked the premises all around and reportedly found nothing. There was an SUV parked in her driveway that she knew nothing about, and it seemed the cops were just cool with that. They seemed to notice her vehicle had all of its windows busted, and that wasn't much of an issue either. Returning to Miss Massey's door, it took 3 minutes for her to finally answer the door so they could speak with her about a few things regarding her call. And she did seem a bit distraught at the time, saying, "Oh God, and please don't hurt me," when first speaking to the cops while on her porch. Prior to her opening the door, Grayson is actually heard on his partner's camera joking with him about maybe the fact that Sonya is already dead inside. Is this premeditated? Here's a not so fun fact. Her 4-year-old nephew Terrell was shot and killed by officers earlier this year in April when he was used as a human shield. Now, for all intents and purposes, fuck them cops who shot him and the person who put that boy in a position in the first damn place. So with that in mind, it may have been a precarious position that Sonya was in, perhaps having fear of police while also being in a position where she needs their help. Conversation went on for a few seconds or a minute on the porch. However, when the partner, who to date has been unnamed, heard her say that she was fine, he was ready to go. But Sean Grayson, well, he lingered, seemingly irritated and looking for a way to get into her home. He asked her if she felt okay mentally while she struggled a bit to articulate. Now, why did he know to ask her that? You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, I get it, but cops generally don't do welfare checks, especially not mental welfare checks. I mean, as a matter of fact, that's why they don't want police defunded, because they think money's going to go from them to go to social services to codify and make it okay for people to have mental issues. Like that's a bad thing. But seriously, why did he know to ask her that? I mean, it's definitely a congenial thing to do, but it's almost like he thought he was going to need that excuse a little bit later. You know what I'm saying? premeditated much? All right, look, let's get out of that rabbit hole. So he gestures for his partner to check the premises again. As he's doing that, Grayson goes into Sonia's home. And I haven't heard anybody say this yet, but doesn't this alone violate her Fourth Amendment rights? I doubt that she invited him in, but darn it, we don't have any body camera footage. He didn't have his camera on, did he? Oh, man, darn the luck. I know it may sound crazy, but was this premeditated? Because I'm just saying, with all the cues that I will be unfolding here, a lot of it looks as questionable as a certain former elected official's shooting. Anyway, they go into a home. Sonya gets a call from emergency services who seem to check that representation from the sheriff's office was already there. She agreed that they were, but it's interesting how she didn't want them to get off the phone as she asked Grayson to pass her Bible to her.
Hello? Yeah, I got the sheriff department here, but I was calling for help from y'all.
Okay, are you there with the
They're here in my house right now.
Okay, I'll let you go and you talk to them.
No, hold on, wait a second, sir.
You can hang up, Cotton. It's good.
For what? You're there with the deputy, correct?
No, hold on, okay?
What's up?
I got some paperwork. Can you grab that Bible, please?
Yeah. Hey, I just need your name.
Sean Grayson asks to see ID. Complying, Sonya goes to get her purse when Grayson notices that a pot of water is boiling on the stove, and you can see him pointing to his partner. He gestures toward it and suggested that she remove it from the stove to prevent a fire, which she does as the officer starts moving towards her. You can see her grab 2 towels, one red one, one white one. She moves the pot while Officer Grayson is still getting closer, but his partner was actually, I think, the one who said that he didn't want to be hit with the steam from the boiling water. Now, as the partner is backing up and explaining why he didn't want to, why he's backing up, she says,
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
twice. And I don't know what kind of household or church group you grew up in, but I grew up Pentecostal, and they didn't play with certain phrases. Maybe this is a joke, but I honestly think if it was a serious one. I provide you exhibits A and B, these officers that was in the house, as to why she'd think such a thing. And add to that the call for her Bible. And add to that the quick call to God and her saying, please don't hurt me at their first sight.
I don't really hurt you. You called us.
Okay.
Now, for whatever reason, hearing her rebuke put a whole battery in Sean's back, putting him on charge. Next thing you know, he's saying, you better fucking not, while aiming his service weapon at her face, saying that he'll shoot her in the face. This time, she put down the pot that she was holding and began to cower behind the countertop while shouting, I'm sorry, repeatedly. Now, despite her compliance and apparent attempts to de-escalate, Grayson shot her 3 times, hitting her, as he said, in the face. Now, at this time, the water was still running in the sink, and prior to being shot, she did seem to get back up and grab the pot at some time, but I only saw her do it with one hand. Like that, I only saw one hand on it. And I just wonder, like, how far was one hand going to throw a pot of boiling water from a kneeling position? You know how much torque, how much hip torque you need to do it by standing? Try to do it on your knees. And if it's boiling, how was she able to grab the bare pot with her bare hands? I'm still trying to figure that part out. Because first is with the handles, did something in the sink, and then she went down cowering, got back up. It looked like she grabbed with one hand. One hand. That's all. And I don't know what she was doing with it. I don't know. We don't know because the officer did what he did. Now, after shooting the victim, his partner called for an ambulance and began applying pressure to her wounds, although he wasn't able to locate an exit wound. Now, prior to this, Officer Grayson said there was no need for a medical kit and chuckled while saying,
I'm gonna go get my kit. No, headshot, dude. You're actually done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
like some video game shit or something like that. Now,
Yeah, I'm not taking fucking boiling water in the fucking head. And look, it fucking came right to our feet, too.
you're
You know, what else do we do?
do you, boo-boo. But
I'm not taking hot boiling water in the fucking face, and it already reached us.
you'll hear that Sonya was still alive and had agonal breathing, which is akin to the death rattle. Some may have heard it or heard of it, and it basically sounds similar to snoring. You know, that kind of. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so graphic. I apologize if that affected anybody. Seriously, I'm sorry. But she did this for about 5 excruciating minutes while the partner applied pressure and Grayson reluctantly lollygagged his way to the squad car to go get his medical kit. Finally, then talk with some other officers who were arriving on the scene and, just move with everything but a sense of urgency.
Not only that,
the situation was further aggravated by Grayson's derogatory comments about Massey shortly after the shooting. Just no respect. Caught on his body camera footage where he referred to her as a crazy bitch, made other disrespectful remarks, and checked to see if she was a 1096, which I believe is a code for somebody with mental issues. And he began working on his excuse. I'm sorry, I mean justification, telling every officer that would listen to him that he had no choice because backing up never came to mind. No choice because, he doesn't have a taser in his utility belt. and no choice because, nobody ever thought to say, hey, can you just turn off the burner?
not only that,
It appeared that other officers were complicit in helping to cover this up, as it was initially reported that Officer Grayson's body camera was off. Now, that was a lie, and that footage has since been revealed that his camera was on, and his footage is even worse than the partners. And to add absolute insult to homicide, Massey's family only learned of the full extent of her death through an announcement on the internet, which added to their obvious distress. The video footage of the incident was shown to her family in private before being released to the public. Initially, the family was told that her injuries were self-inflicted. Self-inflicted. Gunshot to the face?
How, Sway?
Boy, I swear. Now, the family's attorney, Ben Crump, civil rights lawyer and ambulance chaser, is now representing the Massey family. In a recent statement, he actually said, "It is extremely hard to imagine how a woman who calls the police out of fear of an intruder ends up shot in the head by the police at her home." Ain't it, man? I mean, how? How does this even happen? I mean, it's not like the country is racist, right, Kamala?
I don't think America is a racist country.
Racism is real.
America is not a racist country.
Or Candace?
To then try to make Black Americans believe that this happened simply because she was Black is pointedly ridiculous.
So, it wasn't racism. We don't know what it was, but because he never used the N-word, I guess it wasn't racism. Whew! What a relief. Either way, stellar performance, officer. Stellar. Simply stellar. And I know y'all may get to thinking, well, what sort of person is Grayson? What would drive such a loving young man to such heights of hate? Is the blonde bandit just someone who had a bad day? Was his falling down mere moments before his shift was over? Or did he have a past of heinous activity? Well, the truth will likely not shock you. So boom. Dude previously worked for 5 different law enforcement agencies in the past 3 years. 5 agencies in 3 years. You with me so far? So since 2020, he's worked at the Pawnee, Kincaid, and Verdun police departments. And then he worked full-time at the Auburn Police Department and the Logan County Sheriff's Office before joining the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in May of 2023. And prior to becoming a cop, Grayson himself was convicted of driving under the influence twice, in 2015 and again in 2016. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad cop. I think the fucking camera footage does just fine. But you have to wonder, okay, 5, 6 agencies in 4 years? Look, I honestly can't talk because, around the pandemic, I was bouncing between a lot of gigs. But all my gigs were disparate because I was desperate. And I mean, I took whatever jobs I could find. But they're all basically the same type of jobs over 4 years. I mean, good thing his father-in-law is a retired chief of police. Gotta love that nepotism or the good old boys network. But I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, he was just looking for the right fit, Or, and more likely, he's just bad at policing. And instead of banning the guy before he actually did what he did to Sonya or some other unsuspecting citizen, they passed him along like a hot potato, handsy Catholic priest moving through the diocese. I mean, Shouldn't any of this raise concerns about his employment history and the vetting processes police departments use to place officers in your communities? And here's another bad part of this thing, at least to me. Not only did he get charged up when she rebuked him, I honestly don't think he knows what that even means. I'm not making any excuses for him now, mind you. He's an asshole, likely racist, and should get man-raped a lot for the remainder of his time behind bars. Thankfully, he was denied on bail, mind you. But this just further shows the lack of intelligence needed to be a police officer in some places. Maybe it's different in your town. I'm sure it is. I can recall a time when I was talking with a sister, having a casual conversation about politics, not really deep, just, casual conversation. And I remember saying, you can't be so monolithic in your thinking. That's what I said. Do you know that this woman gave me the evil glare before trying to snap on me? All because ignorance is a hell of an agitator. She didn't know what the word meant. That's basically it. Now, in my scenario, the woman thought I was talking down to her. So who knows what this cop thought the word rebuke even meant? Now, I'm not saying that they should have a vocabulary test to be a cop, but yeah, I'm saying maybe they should. No, they probably should. They probably should. Because I mean, there's nothing worse than you getting penalized for somebody else's ignorance. I hate this shit. I absolutely hate this shit. I hate it. I seriously hate this shit. And with the fact that it's on film, I hate that the family had to see it like that. But I'm grateful that the family was able to finally get the truth behind her unalive. Now, I don't think you need a whole host of 7 cents to realize that this was flat out unmitigated murder. That's the only way that you can call this. There wasn't a time for her to do anything but die. And to be honest, you know what this feels like? It feels like a setup. Like when a cop asks if you have a weapon, you say yes while he can clearly see your hands, and he shoots you anyway because suddenly he feared for his life, like in the case of Philando Castile. And you have to wonder, seriously, what kind of defense is, I feared for my life? I'm just saying, I wish civilians could use that, because it's so wild how normal unarmed citizens always have to have the burden of acting proper and using proper thinking, while cops have a hell of a good get out of jail free card. Shoot somebody in the face who didn't have a gun, any other weapon, or the ability to throw a pot of boiling water more than, say, 5 feet, and you want to get away with it? Just say that you feared for your 6'2", 265-pound ass. Obviously, the 5'3", 135-pound black lady was the aggressor and had to be put down. There was simply no other way, you see. Of course, that has to work. Now, obviously, it did not work in this case. But he tried it. Oh, he tried it. Going as far as pleading not guilty. And why? Because it's worked for so many other officers. How long before they fix the law? How many more black people, and can we at least admit that it happens? How many black people have to die before something is done? How much longer before we collectively say, not again? I'm just saying, we don't see or hear about situations like that happening in other communities. Why is it so prevalent in ours? Why are we always given the doubt instead of the benefit? I mean, you've got Sean Grayson, right? A cop with more red flags than a clearance sale at Target, who thought he could dodge accountability by bouncing from one police department to another. I'm just sad that this family had to be in his path before he finally met justice. His reckless actions and blatant disregard for human life would cost Sonya Massey her life and left her family and our community grappling with yet another senseless tragedy. With people pushing us to vote for Kamala, because you black and she black-ish. We need more than blind votes for an ineffective, flaccid Democratic Party. Kamala, are you listening? I hope you're watching. I'm sure you are, right? Put the wine down. Now look, if you are going to be the candidate that we all need to collect behind, you need to produce something. We can't continue to be getting picked off while we have leadership, especially against a candidate who believes that cops should be legally immune from shootings just like this.
Give our police their power back, and we're going to give them immunity from prosecution. So they're not prosecuted for doing their job.
And the broader context of this incident reflects ongoing issues faced by our Black and African American communities in the United States. Despite assertions of no systemic bias, Project 2025 lamenting that there is no such thing as systemic racism, incidents like this perpetuate a sense of distrust and fear among Black individuals when it comes to law enforcement. The pattern of excessive force and disrespect towards Black people, particularly those with mental health issues, highlights the systemic problems that need addressing. So, Kamala, what are you going to do about it? Now, speaking of politics, even President Joseph 1994 crime bill Biden chimed in saying that there should be an investigation by the Justice Department. Now, while I agree, I just don't have much faith in them really looking into what is essentially Sandra Bland 2.0. Especially considering that they didn't do anything for Sandra Bland, the original version. And you know me, I mean, a lot of stuff pops up and I just start questioning things. I got questions. I got questions. I hope y'all got some answers. Help me out. Help to calm my sanity, if you would, please, right? So I know maybe this is a little homework because it's quite a few to come to mind, but you can tell me, does this seem premeditated to you? I mean, just think about it. The way that he first approached the house, first approached the place with his partner, he was joking about maybe she's dead inside already. What is that? And then add to that, the way that Grayson just lingered to find a way into her home before escalating so quickly. Then not using or even thinking about a taser, saying that he'd shoot her in the face and then doing exactly that. Him yelling to drop the pot before, during, and after he shot her already, the lack of body camera footage, them saying her injuries were self-inflicted, hiding information from her family, Grayson working on his alibi, justification for his actions, the need for ID, and the fact that Captain Obvious didn't notice that she was wearing a medical bracelet from a visit that she had earlier that day, which would have proven who she was, but why does she need to provide ID anyway? In Illinois, unless you're suspected of committing a crime or actually have, you ain't required to show. So with everything that Judge Dredd did, what would you call it? Personally, I think there's more to it, especially when you realize one little extra tidbit of information that it's more conspiratorial than anything, because I don't have anything to base this on. It's just a weird course of events and connections, right? Okay. So, Grayson's fiance is a nurse who works at the hospital that Sonya went to earlier that day. Did something happen there? I could see a scenario where she maybe got wild with the staff, and she, the fiance lady gets mad. She sicks her pit bull fiance dude on Massie, and then stuff happens. Now, obviously, that's all speculation, but at this point, the truth ain't truthin' right. So what the hell else we got? And let's say that she was about to throw the pot of water on him, right? Let's just say that she was on her own demon time and she was RTD like Biggie. What would that actually have done to the officer? And speaking of the officer, I'm glad that he's facing 45 years to life. Please give him every piece of that sentencing. But with his partner, that man is going to need some straight up counseling, considering how he had to be on point to back up his partner, even though he seemingly didn't see the justification, shouted F word immediately after it took place, held it together as he applied pressure to a wound before walking to his car and taking a moment to collect himself.
I'm at my car. I'm good.
But I'll say this. If good cops don't do shit about the bad ones, then what's the point of calling yourself a good cop? Putting it plainly, we need to demand justice.
We need justice, real justice we need.
Not just for Sonya, but for all the lives impacted by brutality like this. And yeah, I mean the black ones, Candace. And it ain't just about one bad cop. It's about a system that allows these bad apples to flourish. Cop gangs to go roughshod with qualified immunity, and Philando Castile's killer getting acquitted for flat-out homicide. And let's be real, my people. This officer with 6 different law enforcement agencies in 4 years, that is not a job history. That is a walking red flag parade. Bottom line, we need to keep this story alive, demand change, and hold those in power accountable. Seriously, if you're as fed up as I am, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe, tell your friends about the show. Let's hit that 2,500 subs mark and keep pushing for the justice that Sonya Massey and countless others deserve. I'm your boy 7 Cents, and this has been The Blackman Show. I'll see you next time. Peace, and we out.